Hello, thank you for listening to Conversations with Olwen and for coming back for episode number 3. I've given a very brief overview of me, my experiences as a mum and as a speech pathologist working decades ago here in Queensland, how it's informed my practice, but also my personal thoughts on some of the factors impacting on our children here in Australia. Again, this episode's going to ruffle some feathers. Some people will not like what I have to say, but I live this. This is my experience working in a clinic, talking to people every single day from all walks of life, families, teachers, therapists, other business owners in my local community who I work alongside. And at a grassroots level, I'm a mum. I'm a clinician working with people every day. I'm not based in a university. I'm not based in a research centre. I am on the ground talking to people. I work in a very traditional female occupation alongside many who have very traditional views, many who were parents doing kindy and drop-off many, many decades ago, like myself, but I believe that my views have changed with the way that society has changed. 25 years ago, when I became a speech pathologist and then a year later a mum, there was a much higher chance that if you were a child born in Australia, you would have more one-to-one, serve and return type engagement and a deeper connection with an emotionally invested parent in your household. Familiar, comfortable, reassuring and comforting. Back then, children did not have to navigate IT and screens during, especially, these critical early years of brain development. Fast forward to 2024, when a child is born in Australia, that child is far less likely to experience that one-to-one direct serve and return with a caregiver at home due to both parents working, due to the increased cost of living. And with the IT age, children now have to navigate the complexities and negative effects of excessive screen time, not just for them, but also for their parents. We have to admit, all of us, we can't ignore the fact out in public, we are all seeing children with iPads strapped to their prams, strapped to their high chairs in restaurants. They're popped up everywhere. But parents are on screens too. How many times have you seen a little one trying to engage with their parent while the parent's flicking through something on TikTok or on their iPhone? Now, many, many years ago, a few years after smartphones were introduced, which occurred in January 2007, the American Academy of Paediatrics put out a recommendation advising no screen time for children under 2 years of age. And by then, as a practicing speech pathologist, I 100% agreed. Based on what I was already seeing, I was concerned. But the Academy had to retract their recommendation. It was unheard of. It was unseen. It had never happened before. They faced such a backlash from parents, but also from popular celebrities. Again, it was extreme. About 5 years later, they put the recommendation out again very gently. And guess what? People didn't jump up and down as much. People didn't blast them as much. Everyone was starting to see it. People were starting to talk about it. And let's fast forward to another couple of years. Now everyone's talking about it. So much so that we're talking about how it's wired a whole generation. And in a very recent study by Professor Mary Bush, a professor from Western Australia, she said that screen time is replacing language opportunities for children. Aussie children are missing out on 1,100 adult words each day. Almost 200 conversations as a result of screen time. But it's not just about that interaction has dropped off. It's also about what that screen time actually does to developing brains. Even if you are a family with children and you're not advocates of screens and they don't have iPads at home, they're basically given access to them daily at school now, every single day. And then they're provided with their own at school. Even in OSH, many OSHs, after school care, there are screens, huge screens, TV screens, iPads, Wiis, you name it. Children are being preconditioned that screens are a part of life. One school I know of in my local area has started this as early as prep, and parents are not impressed. Children are playing maths games online. They're doing all of their early literacy online. Children's frontal lobes are not being developed from a lack of writing. Now let's get back to that homework that I set you. What are some of your memories as a child? Were you stuck in a centre? Were you stuck in four walls around unfamiliar kids, adults, people who you weren't really connected with, people who you didn't spend time with, people who you went to every single day of your early life? Or were you at home with your mum or with your dad, with your family? Maybe you were at home with your aunt, your cousins. What did you do during the early years? Did you swim, ride your bike? Did you play hide and seek? Or did you just roam around with your friends? Back then, how did your screen time look? Was it mainly going to the local video store on a Friday night and being super excited because your parents gave you some money and you were able to choose how many weekly videos you could get for the amount that they'd given you? And then you'd go home later and you'd all sit around as a family and you'd watch the movie. You'd all talk about the movie. And then for weeks after, you would talk about it because it was such a novelty and it was so exciting. You didn't take it to your room. You didn't have a screen in your room. You didn't lock yourself up in your room for hours and hours and watch it. My guess is that your screen time looked a lot like mine, watching it with your family, talking about it for weeks on end because it was so exciting. But I also am guessing that you didn't go to the same place every day for 30, 40, 50 hours a week within four walls all year round with the same activities, the same toys, the same people, the same children, the same place, the same monotonous routines with the same routine-driven talk. I bet your early years were filled with a huge range of experiences. I bet you went to different parks and a beach and you went camping, you rode your bike, you had a trampoline. You might have had a pool, or someone in the neighbourhood may have had a pool where you all converged on a Sunday afternoon to spend the day swimming. You cooked and helped mum around the house. You swept, you mopped, you pressed buttons on the washing machine. You helped mum pour the detergent into the washing machine. You'd go and help mum pick groceries at the shop. You'd go to the library, the park, and home again. But while you were at home, you would talk to constantly. You learnt all about mum. You learnt all about dad and his family, your cousins. You learnt about the colours of the pegs that you were using to hang up the washing, what detergent does to clothes, the ingredients involved in baking a cake. Our children's brains were built differently, very differently back then. They were literally built and filled with hundreds of thousands interactions, that connectivity, that internal architecture that Jack Shonkoff talks about. So much was intrinsically built from the moment they were born. Their brains were so much more intact. So that by the time this generation entered school, they had more intact, more connected brains. They were more primed and ready to learn. But also, the more that we now know about epigenetics and about how caring for a child, loving a child, about how hugging a child who's upset and looking after them, particularly our boys, how that connection changes the brain at a cellular level. This type of care has such a positive effect on little boys who are anxious, little boys who are nervous or worried, little boys who are stressed, and boys who are dysregulated. Boys who are stressed and dysregulated have increased levels of cortisol, a stress hormone, and it increases and causes huge dysregulation. It's no wonder, is it, that we have so many children presenting to school right now with mental health issues, and in any generation before. Maggie Dent, Justin Colson, Janet Lansbury, everybody is saying society has changed, times have changed. But I think our children have changed too. I don't agree that it's just society. Our children's brains are developing differently. Children now have to deal with less play, less early years experiences, limited serve and return during that critical period, not to mention the negative effects of excessive screen time on top of what is already a declining neurological state. And don't get me started on the IT epidemic. It's affecting everyone, not just our kids. I read yesterday that one UK principal has proposed a 12-hour school day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. simply to get children off devices, to break the addiction. And let's face it, parents are to blame for this too. I know myself, I have to really watch my screen time, my time on my iPhone, my time on my iPad, on social media. And I'd go so far as to say that many parents are more addicted to screens than their kids. We've got TikTok, we've got Instagram. There are many emotionally unavailable parents because of their own addiction. It's a silent epidemic that's been left unchecked. It's having a detrimental effect on our children's development. I don't agree with my fellow professionals. I don't think explicit phonics instruction is going to solve magically the illiteracy epidemic in this country. I think there's many different factors impacting on our children's outcomes, and I think many people are simplifying the significant issues our children have. I remember to this day the quote that Dr. Jack Shonkoff, US pediatrician, said, if we want our children to have happy memories, if we want them to be happy adults, then we have to give them happy childhoods. And what happy childhoods are we giving our children? Being stuck during the early years for hours in four walls with monotonous routine-driven centres filled with the same people day in, day out. Mums being forced to return to the workforce, particularly many who do not want to. But it's also that epigenetics with our little boy, that care, that connection is not happening. I think our children's brains have changed due to the environment in which they're born into, cost of living pressures, parents working. In podcast number 1, I spoke about the impact of mums going back to work, teamed with the introduction of screens. Even if mums are at home, there is often other distractions. 24 years ago, when I became a first-time mum, there was little distractions. There were no smartphones, and the only screen time was a television set. Our children's brains have changed. They have shifted and they have regressed developmentally. So, what's your homework for this week? I want you to think about your screen time, your own screen time, and I want you to be honest, and this is for you parents out there. I want you to really look at how many hours you find yourself scrolling for. Are you in a job where you spend hours also on screens every day, and then are you coming home and looking at your own screen? Do you ever get outside during the week? And I mean really outside. I don't mean just dropping the kids off at before school care or after school care. Do you ever go for a walk? Do you ever go to the local park? Are you outside in nature? I don't mean the gym. I mean, are you ever outside in the park? Are you ever outside in nature? Do you take your shoes off and walk on the grass and breathe in some fresh air? Or is your life spent within four walls too? And how's your mental health? Are you stressed, nervous, anxious, always busy? Thank you for listening to Conversations with Olwen. If you know somebody who needs to hear this episode today, please share it with them. Until next time.